evening, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm Amy Bertos, the school superintendent. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our secondary town hall. I see that we have quite a few of you that are able to join us this evening. So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules. I'd like to first introduce the others that are here joining all of us together. We have Dr. Mello, who's the assistant superintendent, Mrs. Myers-Pakla, the high school principal, Ms. Sylvia, assistant principal at the high school, Mr. Savidio, assistant principal at the high school, Ms. Karen Frazier, principal of the Ahern, Dr. DeMarco, assistant principal at the middle school, Dr. Frazier, assistant principal at the middle school. We have Mr. Heyer, our director of technology, and then we have Ms. Jen Rosenberg, who's the nurse at the Ahern, and also she's our district nurse leader. So we have all of us here joining us this evening to share all of the preparation and planning that we've been doing, quite honestly, since last spring and all summer. We know that this year is going to be like no other. We also know that people are anxious and they're excited all at the same time. And that I can tell you that just from this morning where we had our cohort A students at the elementary level come in for a morning, and that went really, really well. I'll tell you, it was just so wonderful to see students this morning, and they were excited and they said so. And then with our fifth graders that came in with orientation today too, we had such a great showing with our fifth graders, and they were so fortunate. And we'll be talking, we were so fortunate to have them here with us today, and we'll be talking about our ninth graders in orientation this evening as well. So this evening, we have a lot of information we wanted to share with you. We know that this school year is, again, it's like nothing that we have ever even thought about, because obviously it is something we've never experienced, which has required us to plan for something that looks very different. We have new rules, we have new protocols and procedures. And so all of that, we have to really think of what our new normal will look like in schools, because our first priority is safety of our students and our staff. And we also know that we're going to have some bumps along the way, and we're going to learn whether it has to do with transportation and schedules and any of those kinds of bumps along the way. But at the same time, we know that we are really flexible in education, and we can adjust and we can problem solve. And we have such a great supportive community that we know that as a team here in our Foxboro family, that we'll be able to solve those problems together. So although it's a journey that we've not taken before and we really don't have a roadmap for, it's one that we know that because of our strong supportive community, that we'll be able to do what we need to do best, which is meet the needs of our students. And where we haven't seen our students in person in 6 months, we are just so excited to have them back. And again, just seeing their faces this morning and their excitement, and even hearing them talk about they're just happy to have a place to go. I heard that from students this morning. They're happy to be able to see their teachers. And it's going to be a different year, but it's definitely going to be one that we're all very excited about. So this evening, we're going to be talking about some of those procedures and protocols and how safety is number one, and what it's going to look differently in schools and for students and their experience. We've been spending a lot of time with our staff. We're 7 days into our 10 days with them in safety training and protocols and social distancing, and what they will be doing with our students once they arrive as well, and what that looks like. And so we've been really busy, but those health and safety protocols we'll go over this evening. We'll also talk about the student cohorts and the schedule, arrival and dismissal, and the orientations like the 5th grade and the 9th grade that will be coming up soon. And if you have questions, you can put those in the Q&A section, and we will get to as many of those questions as we can. And at that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Frazier. She's going to start us off in talking about some of those safety and operational protocols that we've been planning and working with teachers on.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm going to just share my screen here so you can see the information that we're talking about as we do this. It says I'm not able to share my screen. I don't know if someone can help me out. There we go. Just a second here. Dr. Berdos, I'm not able to share my screen.
Okay. Let's see. We have Mike Weber here for Foxboro Cable Access. We're very happy to have his assistance here. I know that he also has the PowerPoint, if it's a possibility for him to be able to share the screen itself. In the meantime,
I think it's just disabled for me. So, but while we figure that out, I can get started a little bit and just review the agenda. So we did send the agenda out last week, as Dr. Berdos said. We will be talking you through our safety protocols for the middle school and the high school. We tried to set it up in a way we could really walk you through the day that the students will experience. So we'll start you from the beginning of the day and go all the way through the end of the day. Before we get to those, we will talk a little bit about cohort placement and really talk about what cohorts C and D look like in addition to cohorts A and B. So let's see if this is working yet.
And Mike Weber, if you can hear me, I just sent you the PowerPoint. So if it's easier, I know that we know how to make each other the co-host, but with the added layer of being through Foxboro Cable Access, we might not be able to do that. So I did send him the PowerPoint.
Thank you. Okay. So as we're working on that, we'll just kind of review a little bit of our timeline over the last week or so. On August 29th, the Ahern and Foxboro High School emailed to all of our families the breakdown of the cohort assignments for cohorts A and B, with cohort A being all students whose last names begin with A through K, and cohort B being all of our students whose last names start with L through Z. So here we go. Is that working? There we go.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. And then on September 3rd, the middle school did send out our letters to all families last Thursday afternoon. All students received a letter to be assigned to either cohort A or B, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in just a moment. But the reason being that we know that our circumstances will likely be fluid throughout the school year, and really just trying to make sure that as circumstances change, let's say, for example, we were all to go fully remote, or if a family who chose to go fully remote early in the year changed their mind and want to bring their students in, that we're sure we can provide those opportunities for the students and we're able to safely seat them in our classrooms at 6 feet social distance from their peers. So as Dr. Berdos mentioned, we did welcome our cohort A students in grade 5 this afternoon for their orientation. The students are the whole reason we're here, as Dr. Berdos said. So it was really refreshing to bring them back, and it really brought a very much missed dynamic to our school day here. On Thursday, we'll bring in our cohort B students for grade 5 for their orientation, and the high school also welcome their grade 9 students for orientation there. And then our first day of school is scheduled for all students on Monday, September 14th. Our cohort A students will join us in person on Monday. They'll learn here at school, whether it's at the Ahern or at the high school. And our cohort B students will have their first day, Monday, September 14th, asynchronously at home. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit later as well, and what that day will look like for students. So again, for the cohorts, we did assign all students to either cohort A or cohort B, even if they were also assigned to cohort C or D. And again, the reason being that the situation will continue to be fluid, and we want to make sure that we're able to meet all students' needs throughout the school year. So again, cohort A, all students whose last name starts with A through K. And for cohort B, all students whose last name starts with L through Z. For our cohort C students, again, they were also assigned to either cohort A or B, and they will follow the schedule that our cohort A and B students follow. However, in addition to that, we also want to make sure that we are meeting their the service delivery and their IEPs. So the special education liaisons and the team chairs are working now with families to develop individual student learning plans for every student on an IEP and to develop a schedule for each student. So it is taking some time because that is very individualized for every single student. It's a complex process and we really want to make sure that we get it right and we meet every student's needs as best we can and as outlined in the IEP. And then for our students in cohort D, again, we did also assign these students to either cohort A or B, dependent upon their last name. We do understand they'll be fully remote to start this school year, but again, we want to make sure that we're able to provide the opportunity for students to come back and know that we can do that safely if that becomes the case for individual students throughout this school year. We're really excited at the Ahern because we know there's been a lot of conversation about our students in cohort D who are fully remote and how do we ensure that they're still a part of the Ahern school community. And we've also been having a lot of conversation about how to ensure time on learning for all of these students. So the students at the Ahern who will be in cohort D will also receive their specials with our Ahern teachers in the afternoons. They'll have 4 specials, so they'll have art, music, wellness, and tech ed. For each of those classes, they'll have 1 live synchronous session each week and 2 asynchronous sessions each week, which may look like some collaboration with peers. They may be doing some project-based learning, and they may work on their assignments. The time frame, and I can get a little bit more specific on this with you too, but so the live sessions will occur on Mondays and Tuesdays between 1 o'clock and 2:30. So each of those sessions that are live will be about 35 minutes. So we're looking at on Mondays, for example, grades 5 and 6 would have their wellness and their music, while grades 7 and 8 would have art and tech ed at the same time. And then on Tuesday, our grade 5 and 6 students would have art and tech ed, while grades 7 and 8 would get their wellness and their music. And again, that would be a live session for each of those courses on that day. And then they'd have 2 additional asynchronous sessions where they're completing assignments and working with peers outside of that live learning time. So I'm going to hand it over now to Mrs. Myers-Pakla, who will talk about the health and safety protocols during the school day.
So good evening, everybody. We are so excited to be here tonight, but more importantly, just so excited to be seeing our students. Our incoming 9th graders and our transfer students will be happening into our building this Thursday, and we're so looking forward to seeing the rest of our students next Monday and next Tuesday. It's been a very, very long 6 months. So of course, safety and the well-being of our staff and students are first and foremost in all of our minds, and we've been working very, very hard over these past weeks, really readying the buildings in so many ways to meet the students as they come in and for our staff as they've been coming in as well. So again, this will be something that will be the mantra for the year of remembering the 3 W's. All of our students and staff as well are expected to wear a face cloth covering. Gaiters and bandanas are not acceptable, nor are the vented face shields either. So it has to be a mask. Our second W of please wait and make that 6 feet apart piece if you can at all in the halls. Passing, of course, will be a little bit different because it will not be continual contact time. But when waiting for the bathroom, when waiting in line for lunches, it's that 6 feet apart that we're asking. And we'll have those markers on the floors for students. We'll have them on walls as well. And of course, the third of the 3 W's is to wash your hands and to use those sanitizers. And we will have sanitizers in every single classroom for students to be able to use, as well as sanitizers throughout the building. And of course, there's always the sinks in the bathrooms that can be used as well. And again, so that our students are very, very clear and have a clear understanding of what our expectations are, we will be having live in-person assemblies with our students. So cohort A, who will be in school on Monday, the 14th, we will be meeting the administration, guidance, some other important people in their lives, to meet with the students and to explain exactly what the protocols are, what the changes are that are happening for our upperclassmen, and obviously for our 9th graders, and in the middle school's case, for the 5th graders to have a real clear understanding of what's going to be going on and what our expectations are throughout the school year. And then on Tuesday, the 15th, we will do the same thing with our cohort B students. So the masks, the social distancing, the sanitizing, as I had just mentioned, again, the masks are expected to be the masks. And those are the ones that go around and behind the ears, most importantly. Again, not the gaiters in school, and not any bandanas. Maintaining our 6 feet distancing is always going to be important. And then, of course, again, any of the cleaning and sanitizing, the hand washing that can happen. We are asking our students in the upper grades to clean their desks and their chairs at the end of the class period. Time will be given by every teacher for that to take place. And of course, students coming in, because we're changing classes, the new class coming in, if a student would like to re-sanitize the desk, they certainly may do that again. We'll have alcohol wipes and other sanitizing products in the classroom for those to be able to use by students as well as staff. Mask breaks. All of us behind the masks, if we've worn them for any amount of time, there's always that time that you do want that bit of a break and fresh air. So students may request mask breaks as needed. Social distancing, if the students step outside the classroom or are in the classroom, must maintain that 6 foot distance between. And masks can come off, but we ask our students to really be mindful of a 5 to 10 minute period. So again, we're not at that 15-minute mark. Teachers will be able to provide additional mask breaks as needed to students if they so desire. At the high school, if a teacher would like to take a class outside, they certainly may for a mask break. Otherwise, students may ask, easily take their mask down with teacher permission, step outside the classroom. Doors will be opened as well as windows, as long as weather is permitting. And then Karen, if you want to speak about recess and at the middle school with this.
Sure. And we'll talk in more detail a little bit later about the protocols for recess, but just some additional opportunities during the school day at the middle school for those mask breaks will be recess, the 20 minutes, optimizing the opportunities to take students outdoors for those when weather permits. And again, outdoor learning opportunities for students anytime the weather permits and it's possible to bring them outside for learning. Those will be opportunities for additional mask breaks during the day as well.
So classroom cleaning, as I had just mentioned, again, students at the end of a period will wipe down their desk for the next group of students coming in, and this will be for grades 7 through 12. We are asking our students, and they usually do not, but we do have telephones in every room, so students not to use those telephones. That would just be teachers only that would be using those. Please know that the custodians are going to be cleaning multiple times throughout their shifts. The superintendent has spoken to this on several occasions. We're actually changing some of the scheduled hours of the custodians so that we have more on duty during the day and in the evening to be able to do that cleaning during the day of all of those touch point areas. And then of course in the evening will be the deep cleaning that will be taking place. And any shared materials, those also need to be cleaned in between any times that they're being used. We do certainly urge our parents and our students to be sure that our students have the pens and the pencils that they would need for classes. If it's a protractor for math class, it's a great idea to put that right into that pencil case or into that binder or into that bag so that they have those, so that they don't have to share. If sharing, again, should need to take place, then we will be disinfecting and we will be cleaning those in between those uses.
And just to follow up, we know Mrs. Myers-Pacla mentioned that the students will be cleaning desks before they change classes in grades 7 through 12. And just a reminder, our 5th and 6th grade students won't be changing classes. Their teachers will move to meet them in the classroom, so they won't be changing and sharing desks with other students during the school day.
We just go to a quick question from the chat about what this, I think you mentioned this, Ms. Myers-Pacla, but you might want to just hit it again, what the students are wiping the desks down with?
Those are, they're an alcohol-based wipe. that have been approved by all of the above as far as what is available for students to be able to use and what does work on cleaning germs, and also things that are environmentally friendly, non-toxic, etc. So certainly Mr. Yukna is one who can speak to this much more, our business manager, as he really has all the protocols on that. And the deep,
Actually,
go ahead.
we have all of the cleaning. Sorry, I have feedback. We have all the cleaning supplies posted on our COVID page if you want to see all the ingredients for all of them. So they are there and available for everybody to
And
see.
again, just to reassure parents that we are, and for our students as well, that the hand sanitizers are going to be replenished every evening. The alcohol wipes will also be replenished, so that there will be a full supply every day for students and for teachers to be able to use. And if anything should run low, teachers already are in that habit of, and already know, just to call down to the office and we'll get the extra supplies to them.
Okay, so as students arrive to the building in the morning, we spent a lot of time really talking about how we can safely bring the students into the building so that we don't have large crowds of students in any place. And we know that, you know, as we get to the first day of school and we go through this, we know we'll likely have to make some adjustments as we go, but we have put a lot of thought into the entrances students will come into, how they're moving through the building and how they're getting to their classes and who's helping them with that. So as far as from a parent perspective goes, when dropping students off in the morning, it won't look that different. The traffic pattern will be very similar. You'll come in that back, if you're dropping your student off in a car, you'll come in that same back entrance from Chestnut Street and follow the same loop. However, based on grade level, the students will be directed to different entrances of the building, and staff will guide them from that point through hallways and stairwells to get them to their classes where they need to go. Same with buses. When the buses arrive, they'll arrive in the bus circle. And a difference from previous years, when the buses arrive, we'll be taking the students right off the buses and up to homeroom. So they won't be waiting on the bus. They won't be waiting outside. As soon as their bus arrives, a staff member will guide the students directly to their homeroom. Drop-off, the buses typically arrive between 7:35 and 7:55 anyway. Students are typically in homeroom by 8 o'clock. So the timing of that won't change. We're going to be using it a little bit differently than we have in the past. And students will not be using lockers at either the middle school or the high school for the beginning of, at least the beginning of this school year. So they will be carrying their backpacks. So when they arrive, again, they'll be going directly to their homeroom and carrying their backpacks with their belongings for the day with them.
So we've also made some adjustments, not a lot, but a few adjustments at the high school as well. So once again, if you are dropping off in the morning, we do ask, I know that it's not necessarily the preferred way, but we do ask that the drop-offs come up the main parking lot right to your right as soon as you come up the driveway, come up to around where the flagpole is. It's on the music side or the auditorium side of the building, and drop off there, and then students can walk into the main entranceway. Our buses are still going to be dropping off in kind of our bus circle here in the front. And our students always go into one of two entranceways here, and that is either in through the gym doors or in through the main entrance doors. So those will remain the same. And our students who are parking in either one of the two parking lots, they'll come in either the gym doors or the main doors. It tends to be rather staggered coming in the morning. What will be different is that, as in the past for our upperclassmen, they would remember that if they got in early, before the 7:25 bell rang, that they would be going directly to the cafeteria. That's now shifting. So we're going to be placing our students into 4 different areas within the building. Our 9th grade will be going to the gym. Our 10th grade will be going to the auditorium. Our 11th grade will be going to the media center. And our 12th grade will be going to the cafeteria. We do have desks and seats that have been marked off, and they are all distanced 6 feet in that 6-foot range apart from each other. People might say, what about breakfast? We will be serving, or breakfast will be available for students. So those students going into the cafeteria will be able to buy in the regular cafeteria line. The same product, food products, will be provided in a kiosk kind of cell situation in the gym lobby area. And then outside of our media center, there's an area there that students will be able to purchase, and then down by the auditorium as well. So for any students that are looking to buy breakfast, we will have that available to them. As Ms. Frazier had mentioned, there will be no locker use in this first semester, at least the beginning of the school year. Many of our students, although given a locker, do not use them. So this won't be too new to students, but again, making sure that they have all their supplies in their backpack. And the staff, we will be there. We will have staff in each of those areas in the morning to help supervise students and making sure that they're keeping their distances as well.
Mrs. Myers, I haven't covered this, but morning gym, is that still happening?
We're anticipating that morning gym is still happening, so we will get back to those students who have that on their schedule. Yes.
Okay. There was a question about students bringing yoga mats to morning gym and a spot to store it. All those details will be shared once we know more.
Yes, the PE wellness department is going to be sharing all of those details. I know for some people this is, it's a need to know, and we certainly understand that. But as things pertain to each class's teachers will be talking in further detail about all of those aspects of their classes too.
Also, I just might add too, Diana, that the kids, when they come in both lobbies, will have the pump there for them to hit the hand sanitizer on the way in. And yes, we can provide masks if they forgot their mask.
Thank you. That was Miss Sylvia for all of you out there.
So as we're talking about breakfast, at the Ahern, breakfast will look a little bit different this year because we are routing students through the cafeteria in the morning on their way to homeroom. The students won't be eating in the cafeteria in the morning. So we're working with the food services department on an online ordering system. So families will be able to order breakfast for their students in advance. They'll need to do so by 7 a.m. and that information is coming from food services. And then the kitchen staff will deliver breakfast to homerooms to the students. It's actually a fairly small number of students who do end up grabbing breakfast in the mornings on typical days, and we'll have only about half of our student population on a given day with the cohort system here. But students will have their breakfast during their morning mask break, and of course they must wash their hands before and after eating. Mrs. Myers-Pacla, I know you talked about breakfast a little bit already, but if you want to add anything here before we move on.
Nope, just the grab and go, 3 locations. And then again, the breakfast will be eaten in the designated areas before the students head off to their first block classes in the morning.
Okay. So hallways, the system will look fairly similar in both middle school and high school. We currently have lanes marked with yellow tape in the hallways with one-way movement in each lane. So students will stay to the right in mostly single file with the yellow tape marking the center of the hallway to keep students to one side or the other. Students do have to wear their masks in the hallways. We'll be asking them to keep moving through the hallways, to move with purpose. We have worked at the middle school, we've worked to locate the classrooms so that they're in close proximity to really limit the movement that students are actually having in the hallways. The teachers and all staff will supervise in the hallways during those passing periods. And again, the students won't be using their lockers. They'll be carrying all items in and out with them in their backpacks each school day. That will also help us to limit any congregating in the hallway and any crowding in the hallway so that we're keeping them moving from class to class.
And as far as bathrooms are, we will not be having our bathrooms at the high school open during passing time. And again, that's because we do not have people who can monitor in the bathrooms, and we just want to make sure that we don't have students who are congregating. However, students will be able to take bathroom breaks at any time during the class time period. We are and have spoken to our staff about this, that it's only 1 student out of a given classroom at any one given time. We will have a sign-out system that will be going on. We will also have monitors at the high school level at the bathrooms, once again, to assure the limited number in the bathrooms. Our bathrooms are at different sizes. In some cases, it's 3 to a bathroom. In other instances, it may be 2. And we also have some single stall bathrooms as well. For those students who may be out of the class at the same time and are waiting, different classes at the same time, but are waiting to go into the bathroom, we do have and will be having markers on the floor that are 6-foot distances.
So that brings us to lunch. Our cafeterias are set up very differently than they have been in the past. We've removed the round tables that only allowed for about 5.5 feet of distance between the students, and we've replaced them with desks that are all placed now at 6 feet distancing so that students can eat in the cafeteria with their in the desks, excuse me. So when they're leaving class at the middle school, they will be escorted to lunch by staff, again supervised in the hallways to help with that movement. Staff will also be supervising in the lunchroom. Students in the middle school will be assigned their seats in the lunchroom by their house and by their homeroom so that they're sitting in the same seats each day and that they're sitting in the closest proximity with the students they are spending their day with. We'll be calling the students up by row to buy their lunch, again, to help with ensuring students are lined up at 6 feet distancing to get their lunches, those who are purchasing. And there will be cleaning in between each lunch. We'll look at in just a few minutes, but we've adjusted the schedules to allow for that really deep cleaning in between each group of students who are coming into the lunchroom.
Ms. Frazier, sorry to interrupt you. Could you go to the top of where it says display settings over your PowerPoint so we can see the slides a little bit bigger? So there's a request in the chat for that. Do you see at the top where it says show taskbar display settings? Right on your actual screen right there that we can see.
I see, yep.
Yep, if you go to display settings, we should be able to change it so that just click duplicate slideshow and then it should get big.
Got it. Is that better?
I think so. There we go. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, thank you. Okay.
So at FHS, our seating too has changed. It'll be quite different by look. And that is that we have in the cafeteria replaced all of our tables, again, not large enough to be able to house our students, but we've replaced them all with desks that are socially distanced at 6 feet apart. As not yet mentioned, but as I'm mentioning now, there are 3 locations for us to be able to accommodate all of our students during the lunchtime. So the cafeteria is one area. If students are thinking about where they might be interested in having lunch, we're asking that those students who are planning to buy their lunch will actually go to the cafeteria to buy. There will be 2 lunch lines. Again, there will be markers on the floor for socially distancing. Students will keep their masks on until they buy their lunch. Once they're seated, they may take their masks off and then, of course, have conversation, enjoy their lunch as well. We're also going to, though, have lunch served not lunch served, but students able to take their lunch in our media center and in room 122, which is a large room that's outside of the cafeteria. We'll also have the patio area outside of the cafeteria open for students to be able to use as well. We've moved from 3 lunches to 4 lunches in order to be able to accommodate students and to be able to keep our social distancing in place. We too will also be cleaning between each lunch, and it will be a deep cleaning, and we have adjusted our schedule to be able to meet that clean.
The only other thing that I'd like to add in there when it comes to lunches too is more information from Ms. Janice Watts, our Director of Food Service. At the end of the week, we'll be sending out information to all families that talks about the different, the lunch and the offerings for breakfast. It's also available on the website, and then information about pre-ordering food, because you would need to pre-order, particularly if you're wanting to purchase for the remote days when students are not in school. And then also any of our students that are in cohort D, if they're wanting to order as well, she will then be talking with those families about pickup at the times that they will be able to pick up too. So that information will be coming out at the end of this week.
And I think this question is for Ms. Myers-Packla. Do students choose where they want to have lunch, or is it assigned?
Initially, we're going to allow students to choose that location. We also understand that in some cases, there may be students who buy on one day but are going to bring on another day. So we're going to look to accommodate that. We want to run through the schedule a couple of times to see just that in order to accommodate at the very beginning of the year in order to accommodate students as far as where they're seated. We probably are going to wind up, we do have our cameras in our given areas, but probably taking some photographs. They can all smile and wave, just so that we know for social distancing and for who might be in close contact should we need that. We are looking to go to a QR code. There will be more coming on that once we have that in place.
In addition, to piggyback on what Dr. Berto said, there's a lot of questions about the school bucks and ordering lunch. As Dr. Berto said, you will be receiving a communication from our food service department, so stay tuned for that, and that should answer all of your questions. And then if not, you can always reach out.
Okay, so at the middle school around lunchtime, we also have our recess period, particularly for 5th and 6th grades. So again, this happens around the lunch period. So when students are leaving the cafeteria to go to recess, they will be called by their row, by their homeroom, and will be exiting the cafeteria through a designated door so that, again, we can spread the students out as they're heading outside for recess. The students and teachers will transition together to designated areas. So the recess will look different this year for sure, but we do want to make sure that we're providing those opportunities for the students to get outside, to get some fresh air, and to have those mask breaks, and to try to create some social opportunities as much as we can for them. So our facilities department is working to paint grids for us on the grass so that we can mark that distancing for the students when they're outside. Our teachers are working together with the assistant principals, Dr. Frazier and Dr. DeMarco, on what those activities look like for students so that it can be an interactive recess and it can be social, but that it's also safe for the students. So again, the activities will be structured to maintain that social distancing and to limit shared materials between students. Students will wear masks at recess. However, they will be able to take breaks in designated areas and with the permission of teachers. And we're also looking in the 7th and 8th grades, again, as weather permits, using that 20 minutes that the students have as opportunities to have an outdoor mask break when possible. So as we talk about music and wellness, I know the guidelines came out a bit earlier from the state, and this will look very similar between high school and middle school. But these are some of our really, there are classes that take place during the day that will have to look pretty significantly different from what they might look like in a typical school year. So our music classes for band and chorus, because the students will be singing and blowing into instruments for the band, they will be outdoors, weather permitting, in designated areas. We do have some coverings to help with some of that inclement weather for students so we can get them outside as much as possible. The students will be positioned for those classes at 10 feet outdoors, again, for band and chorus. And their activities will change a little bit if the weather isn't permitting and they have to be indoors, but those classes will still take place. For orchestra, they'll be indoors at 6 feet social distancing. And then our wellness classes also will be outdoors as much as possible, weather permitting. The students will be at 10 feet social distancing for those activities. And the wellness department is working to put together some newer activities for our students. Again, wellness will look different, but trying to limit the activities that will produce some sweating or heavy breathing. So our students might be learning some new things this year, like bocce and croquet, and a little bit more emphasis on yoga. And our health classes, especially earlier on in the school year, will focus on that mask wearing, hand washing, hygiene, social distancing, and self-care in general.
And just to add to that a bit as well, just in speaking with our wellness department in recent days, as Ms. Frazier has mentioned, that sweating and heavy breathing type of activity won't be taking place on the in-person day, but that they do have that set up for the asynchronous day when the students are not in school, when they can participate in, whether it's a running or some kind of calisthenics or something along that end of it, where you're at home and not here, among others.
And then at the middle school, there has been a lot of conversation around our enrichment and our elective, which occurs in 7th and 8th grades, typically in the 7th period every other day. So for 7th and 8th grades, it would fall on either an odd day or an even day, last period. And as we explore those electives and enrichments, and we think about all of the shared materials that are used in some of those electives. So I think about keyboarding or robotics or our medical detectives classes. Those are going to be a little bit more challenging to run than they may be in a typical year. We do want to really give some thought to how we can run those classes in a way that's meaningful and purposeful for our students. But we also want to take the opportunity to really place the emphasis on our social emotional needs of our students and building community among our students, especially where they'll only be in school for some of the days of the week. So for the first quarter of the year, that enrichment and elective will take place as our second steps course. And again, with the emphasis being on social emotional learning and building community among our students. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, we did have to adjust our schedule just a little bit to accommodate for the cleaning between lunches. So typically our class periods are about 42 minutes, excuse me. So this year they'll be just a bit shorter at about 40 minutes, again, to accommodate that, that cleaning in between lunches.
So similar to the middle school, excuse me, the high school also had to adjust their bell schedule. And a couple of things that came out that were very important to staff, our teachers in particular, was that they meet with every class every day. So instead of our 7-period rotation that was actually 6 periods, drop 1 in a day, students are now going to be meeting every class every day. Period 1 will still remain the same. We do share staff with the middle school, so period 1 will always remain the same, but periods 2 through 7 will be on a rotation. And we did go to the 4 lunches, thus also allowing for that time in between the lunches for the cleaning to take place there as well.
So similar to the students' arrival to school, our dismissal will also look a little bit different at the end of the day. We will be staggering those dismissals for students in about 1-minute intervals, just dismissing 2 and 3 homerooms at a time, or last period classes at a time, for the students to go outside. Those students taking the bus will go directly outside, out the same doors that they entered the building in the morning. And again, those doors are in stairwells or in proximity to where the students' classes are during the school day. So if they're taking the bus, they'll leave the building, they'll get right on the bus. Students who are being picked up in the afternoon, we will line them up outside. Staff will be out there to help us, to monitor and assist the students in helping us to keep them at 6 feet while they're waiting for their families to pick them up outside. So again, we know we will need to make adjustments as we go and as we see how this really does play out when the students are here. But again, a lot of thought has gone into how we can route those students through the building so we can avoid their congregating and getting them home safely at the end of the day.
So we got a few changes with the high school dismissal. At 1:58, the front office is going to call for students who are drivers and any of their passengers to exit the building, so that those students can go out, get into the parking lot, and be starting on their way. At 2 o'clock, the regular dismissal bell will ring for anyone who's taking a bus or who is being picked up. And again, students will be exiting out either the main doors by the main office or out the gym doors, the main doors. In the past, students have passed through the gym, oftentimes using that as an after-school meeting spot for a few minutes to decide what they're going to be doing or what practice they're heading to or what event they're going to. But that will not be happening this year. Students will need to exit the building immediately. And without lockers being used again for that purpose of less touch points during the day and also less congregation.
There's actually a lot of questions about dismissal, and so I think this is a good time to jump in. So, so the question is, so not staggered entry for Ahern? That's the first question. Is that?
So, the entry to Ahern will be staggered in the sense that as soon as those buses are arriving, we're bringing the students off rather than having all of the students enter at the same time at 7:55. So as soon as students arrive, we are bringing them right into the building. So that will stagger their entry.
Perfect. Is it still the normal drive-through line for pickup at the middle school?
Yes.
When will walkers be dismissed from the Ahern?
So they'll be dismissed at the same time, and they'll actually use the same exits as the students on buses, because they'll be heading out in the same direction as our students who are getting on the bus.
So they'll come out their door and then they'll walk to the appropriate pickup location.
Yes.
Okay. Where should walkers enter and exit at the Ahern?
So they will, thank you, walkers and bike riders will come in the same entrances that the bus students come in, and will exit the same exits.
And I think this one is both for Mrs. Myers-Pacla and Ms. Frazier. If a parent needs to pick up their child for a doctor's appointment, orthodontist, something like that, how will that work for dismissal?
Sure. So similar to in the past, but when parents come to pick up students, they'll buzz in at the front door. Our secretaries in the main office will ask you to come on in and wait in the foyer area until we're able to track your student down and bring them down to the foyer to meet you there, rather than coming into the main office or into the main area of the building.
Where should students, and this is probably more for high school, but where should students who are participating in sports go at dismissal?
At the high school, they'll be directed where it is that they're going to need to go. It'll depend upon what time their practice happens to be or what field they're at. So that information will be forthcoming from out of our athletic director's office, and they will know where to go. Just getting back to the high school, just on that one, as far as if a student needs to be dismissed. Usual protocol has been that a notice come in the morning, and that comes to the main office. The student has usually dropped that off. A parent can also call in. They have done that in the past, and parents may certainly come buzz the door. We're probably not going to let you into the building at that point. Unfortunately, we don't have the foyer up front. So once you've buzzed and said that you've arrived or called us and we can see you at the front door with a wave, then we can certainly dismiss your son or daughter. And the same thing, that if they have it and they're going to be driving themselves, they'll just bring the note in the morning. They'll come out through the office just to sign out as they usually have. We would also, I'll just put this on as well, I don't know if there's a question in there, but if a student is sick on any given day, whether it's a day that they're, whether it's a day that they're in school or a day that they're home, we still are asking for a parent to call them in sick on either day.
I think Mr. Cusack to address this at school committee. So Dr. Berdos, maybe you remember, but the question is, will students participating in sports have an opportunity to get changed after school? And I believe Mr. Cusack said they should just come in the clothes that they plan to wear for sports. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. There was another question. The drop-off loop is the same for the pickup loop at the Ahern, correct?
Yes.
There is a question about after-school activities and clubs. So we do have protocols for that. Some will be virtual. I don't know if either of you want to take that, since we're talking about the end of the day, and extra help as well.
Sure. I think, is that our next?
Okay, sorry. So we're getting
no, it's
perfect.
good timing. It's a good transition. So we will be asking that, for the most part, students will leave the building right at the end of the school day. That will allow us time for the teachers to wrap up in the afternoon, and for the custodians to come in and do that deep cleaning each afternoon, and they will need significant time to do that. As far as extracurricular activities, at the middle school, they'll be virtual. At the high school, they'll be virtual as well. However, there will be some opportunities for extracurricular activities that can be outdoors and socially distanced. As far as after school help, that will also be virtual. And we've had a lot of conversation with teachers about being mindful of those students who are leaving school to get home for that versus students who are already at home, and providing the time that students need after school if they do need any assistance with their schoolwork. And then for sports, and any that have been approved by the MIAA and that can be played outdoors, and Mrs. Myers-Pacla may want to chime in a bit more on that.
So the MIAA did come out about 4 weeks ago, and did say that yes, there would be sports. And Mr. Cusack did speak about this at the last school committee meeting, and I believe you can find the information up on the website and on the MIAA website as well. So without a ton of detail, but they have moved, meaning the MIAA has moved all the high schools to a 4-season sport, I guess you would call it. And the outdoor sports of the fall will be going. Football is an exception and cheer is an exception. They've moved that to the extra, which is actually kind of a February, March time period. And volleyball is also moving to that time frame as well, because volleyball is an indoor sport and in gyms. And the decision was made that that would move also to be an indoor in the third extra season that's in there. So yes, we will be having sports, and yes, as Ms. Frazier has articulated so well, extracurricular activities at the high school will be virtual. Some may well be outdoors with the advisor there. There could be some drama or some other things that might be happening in an outdoor setting, some music things that could be in an outdoor setting as well. And again, after school help would be virtual. Taking a look at starting, right at 2 o'clock for those students who are at home on their home day, that they could come right into an after school setting. For those students who are taking the bus home or driving home, they'd be able to get in on that afternoon setting once they got home on that particular day. So extra help is available all the time for them. And we'll have our tutors available during the school day too.
Okay, so Mrs. Myers-Pacla, I believe you're going to talk a little bit in more detail about our hybrid schedule.
So we did move to the hybrid schedule, as we have sent home to folks. We actually have, there are 4 cohorts. Cohort A and Cohort B are both in person. The Cohort A students will be here on Monday and Thursday. They will be asynchronous, learning remotely on Tuesdays and Fridays. And on Wednesdays, we're going to bring Cohort A students and Cohort B students together. Our hope is if we're back in person at some point, our Cohort A and our Cohort B are the classes that will be together. So the Cohort B students are in person on Tuesdays and Fridays. They will be asynchronous on Mondays and Thursdays, and again, coming together with their counterparts on Wednesday and with their teachers on Wednesday.
So for that remote Wednesday schedule, we did send this out to you a couple weeks ago, but just a chance to take a look and talk about the sort of the why here. So we do want to run all 7 periods on that remote Wednesday. As Mrs. Myers-Pacla mentioned earlier, we do want our teachers to see all of their students every day. The periods are shortened. They're each 30 minutes. And we also tried to schedule in some breaks just to give our students and staff a break from the screen time. So you'll see here, there's a snack break, that check-in with their homeroom for a social emotional check-in. It could be an opportunity for students to check in with their guidance counselors if they need to do that. But really, if students are having any difficulty during the day, that is sort of the midday opportunity to be able to check in with teachers and say, I'm having some trouble with this work, and for us to be able to point them in the right direction for that. And then there will be an afternoon session that we'll talk about in just a minute after Mrs. Myers-Pacla talks about the high school schedule.
So we too have a remote Wednesday as well. We made some modifications on the day too. So our classes are going to be 30 minutes. We're going to run this in a reverse schedule, and we will be running a blue day and a gold day when it comes to our remote Wednesday. And that's because we do have some classes that meet every other day. So we need to be able to get those in on the remote Wednesdays. We have also too built in a break time. And I also just would like you to note that we're actually giving our high school students a little bit of a late start on the remote Wednesday, so that their first period of the day, which is period 7, will begin at 8:32. We have built in that break time to give a little bit of a break from screen time. We've also built in an advisory, which is an SEL check-in session for our teachers and our students. And our students will be meeting with their advisory teachers. And again, how are they doing? What's going on? What do you need some help with? What direction can we point you into? Then there's that lunch period and then the PM session. So with the remote Wednesday in the afternoon, there's a variety of different things that could be taking place, both at the Ahern, I'll let Ms. Frazier speak about that a little bit, but also at the high school too. So it's an opportunity for students to work on assignments and projects. There could be collaborative work that's going on, and this is an opportunity for them during the school day to come together. Also 2 a time for students to set up potentially their guidance appointments, sessions through WebEx. There could also be some guidance sessions that could be taking place for students. Meeting with a social worker, other specialists that we may have as well. And again, our platform that we are using is WebEx.
Yes, and at the middle school, it will look very similar as well in terms of students working together when possible for that collaboration piece and working independently on those assignments and projects that they've been given throughout the week. So just a little more detail about the Ahern schedule. We are typically on a 6-day rotating schedule, and we are going to keep that. Our day, we have days 1 through 6, so we have an odd day and an even day. All our odd days look essentially the same, and our even days look essentially the same. And the reason we wanted to keep this rotation was because of our specials that don't necessarily meet every single day. So our wellness classes, tech ed, art, music in 5th and 6th grades, the Spanish classes. This could be academic labs for some of our special education students. So trying to make sure that we do have that time in place for students each week. And by rotating the schedule and keeping that 6-day schedule, that Wednesday remote day will rotate primarily between an odd day and an even day. So it's not the same day of the schedule that is hit each week with the remote day. So for devices, as we know, and we've talked about, unfortunately, the devices that we've purchased as a district are delayed. And I know our technology department is working really hard on some solutions for our families who may need some help with this while we are waiting for devices. We did just want to put out there, we have been a bring your own device district for several years now. If students already have a device and they're comfortable with this, and as a family you're comfortable with this, students can certainly bring their devices to school, but please, we ask that you don't go out and purchase new devices now. We have purchased them for all of our students, and they will arrive with time. And students who don't have those to bring to school, we will certainly supplement with what we have here in the building to make sure that students have what they need while they're in school for their learning.
So for the remote learning days, one being our Wednesday, when we're bringing our cohorts A and B together, we will be using either Teams or WebEx for video conferencing, potentially some live instruction going on in there, explanation, looking forward. Students, we are asking them that we are saying that they do need to keep their cameras on. They can certainly change their background, and that's very easily done through WebEx and through Teams. And there's directions right within those 2 programs for them to be able to do that. But it is important for our teachers to be able to see them and for the students to be able to see the teachers and have that face-to-face interaction. It may not be in person, but it is important on that day to be able to have that engagement going on. And on our asynchronous days, the expectation, of course, is that students would be working on the assignments that teachers have given to them. At the high school level, it may not be an assignment each day. It could be an assignment that's long-term, or that students would be working on every day, but would be passed in after several days. It's expected that students will complete their assigned work to be marked present for school. So whatever may be due on a given day, and we will be having check-ins every day for students on the asynchronous days. Students will log in at the start of school. They probably at the middle school a little bit more than at the high school will have assignments that need to be completed by the end of the day. Teachers will be grading all of our students' assignments. That this is an expectation that students are in classes, whether they are in classes live or whether they are at home asynchronously, but that they are working on schoolwork that's been given to them. And some assignments may involve some online collaboration among peers, whether it's groups that have been put together on their date and their cohort A groups being put together, or in some cases there could be some crossovers between cohort A and cohort B. If I were teaching history and I had a first period class, I may well be grouping students or allowing them to form their own groups potentially. And it could be a mix of students in both cohort A and cohort B, just depending upon what that assignment might be. So, Ms. Fraser, were you jumping in on this one?
No, but I can.
Okay.
So
Sorry about that.
no worries. So we know there have been a lot of questions about, well, what about those students who aren't attending school in person on that first day of school, Monday, September 14th? Our cohort B students will be home learning asynchronously that day. Our fifth grade students, those students who are able to attend orientation and are in cohort B, will get some materials from their teachers to get them started on that first day. If students aren't able to attend, we understand that, and assignments will be posted in Microsoft Teams for students to be able to access. Typically in the first few days of school, we are spending a lot of time building community and within the classroom and making the classroom a safe place for students to learn. So that will be the focus of many of those assignments on those first couple of days, whether students are here or at home. A lot of getting to know you, and again, building that community, which will be so essential, especially this year where students have more limited time together. But in 6th through 8th grades, that asynchronous learning and all the activities posted in Teams. And then our 9th through 12th grades will also look very similar to the 6th through 8, where those activities are posted in Teams, and attendance will be taken whether students are in school or at home as part of our cohort B.
And in grades 9, in grades 9 through 12, those asynchronous activities will be posted in Teams. For our 9th graders, in case they have any question on getting into Teams, it will also be in their, I believe in their student emails, that it's going to also be sent out to them. And they are getting to know you activities that the students, we are looking forward to their engagement in them. And again, as Ms. Fraser said, attendance will be taken on that very first day on Monday for the cohort B students.
And I just would like to add to that, we are creating some parent tutorial videos so that parents can see what they should be seeing from their students navigating through Teams. We realize that you can't access Teams, but where you would be able to look over your child's shoulder. But in addition, we are instituting a single sign-on software called Clever. So it will be a much more seamless and streamlined experience than it was in the spring for students. For example, we know they have a variety of online textbooks, different websites that they visit, different platforms that they use. These will all be housed in this one dashboard where students can click and go directly to those sites. So there will not be a bunch of clicking around to different links as it was in the past. And that was one of the things that we heard from the parent feedback that was really important, and that is the solution thanks to our technology department and everybody working behind the scenes to get that up and running. So I just wanted to share that as well.
So that brings us back to orientation, which we mentioned a little bit early on. But our grade 5 orientation, again, our cohort A students in grade 5 did join us this afternoon. It was awesome to see kids here at school. As I mentioned earlier, it completely changes the dynamic of our day. They were here from 1 to 2 o'clock. They worked outside for the most part. They met in large and small groups, 6 feet socially distanced. Again, some of those icebreakers and getting to know you activities and just meeting some of their other 5th grade peers. Following those activities, they did come in. They had a socially distanced tour of the inside of the building, and they ended in their classrooms where they got to meet their teachers for this year and hear a little bit about their teachers, a little bit more of the get to know you, and hearing about what middle school is like and what the 5th grade experience should be for them. Our cohort B students will join us on Thursday at the same time, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. We look forward to welcoming them here, and I'll hand it over to Mrs. Myers-Pekla to talk about grade 9.
So our grade 9 and our transfer student orientation will be taking place this Thursday. We did send out at the end of last week an email that actually gave the time and the location of the drop-off for students for Thursday. We will have our upper class students. They serve as orientation leaders and mentors as we go throughout the year. They were actually in a training a couple of weeks ago, so we're very excited to have both our upperclassmen coming in with our 9th grade and our transfer students as well. And the students will be involved and engaged in small group activities, both indoors and outdoors. They'll be taking a tour of the building. They'll be meeting with guidance and administration and a couple of other individuals as well. As they're touring the building, they'll be seeing and having several teachers pointed out to them and be meeting several teachers along the way.
And if I may just add one follow-up for the 5th grade orientation. Similar to the high school, our older students, our 8th graders, serve as mentors to the incoming 5th graders. And our 5th graders should expect a phone call from their 8th grade leaders before the start of school to welcome them and give them another opportunity to ask any questions they may have or share any worries that hopefully their 8th grade expert middle schoolers might be able to answer for them before they come in for that first day of school.
So that would be the follow-up. There was a question in the chat about what was provided to 5th graders at orientation because nothing came home with the child. So, okay.
Yep.
And similar with the 9th graders, there'll be quite a Q&A session for them that will be taking place on Thursday as well.
Okay. So I know we've been...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know we've been answering questions kind of throughout here, but that brings us to our question and answer session.
I do think there are quite a few questions for Mrs. Rosenberg, our nurse leader. So I'd like to share a couple of those with her. So let me just see if I can go back and find them because there's quite a few.
I tried to answer, Dr. Mello, I did try to answer a lot of them as they were going.
Okay, great.
So I did type in, I was kind of weeding out the ones that were pertinent to me. So I think I answered a lot of the questions about potential cases that came in the classroom. Can everyone see the answers to the chat, like everyone that's watching? Or is it just that
I don't know. I do know there's a question here. Do kids have to stay home if they have symptoms that are on the COVID list and then get a test proving negative to return? Not sure that question was clear.
No, I don't think I answered that one. So we asked the parents to do that checklist that was sent home, and actually with the Power School registration that should be rolling out at sometime this week. There's going to be an attestation to say that every morning you will kind of go over the symptoms of COVID and make sure your student doesn't have any. With that being said, we do know that there are other reasons why people get sniffles and sneezing. We just ask that you kind of go over those checklists, those symptoms, and if your student is exhibiting any signs of COVID, that we would refer you to your pediatrician or your primary care physician, and just to have a conversation with them, see what they would want. If they would like your student to have a test, then you'd have to go and do that. But this year, communication is going to be the key. We're asking for transparency. We're all going to be doing this. Like Ms. Frazier had said earlier, this is definitely a fluid situation. And as things come up, we're going to best handle them as we can as a team, and we're going to work together. I feel it was so great. I have to agree, seeing the students in the school today just brought such a smile to my face. I think everyone on this team has worked really hard. But with that being said, I want you to feel free to send questions my way. You can email me. My email address is right on the website. If anything comes up that you're questioning, we really want you to reach out to us as the nurses. You can reach out to your nurse in your building, and we'll help as much as we can. There's another one about flu clinics. So we had our first successful flu clinic today. It was great. There was a little snafu on the registration process, but CVS was very flexible, and they were able to accommodate any person that just walked up. So that will happen again on Friday. So if you have not registered, if all the time slots have been taken, please feel free to just come and show up, and you'll be able to get your students vaccinated.
Excellent. There is a question here that's more related to, I think, the academic side, but it has to do with illness. So if students have to stay home due to sickness for an extended period, will they be supported in a virtual learning environment in their assigned cohort, or will they revert to cohort D for that temporary period? So no, they will be supporting them in their cohort. That won't be changing. There's quite a few questions I think for the principals could answer about supply lists for the grade levels and how those will be shared and when.
I can tell you that at the high school, we really do not send out a supply list. The one thing that is needed, and it did go out in the Foxworthy, is the TI 84, I believe it is, calculator that students do need for math. And it's a graphing calculator that it is on the more expensive side, but it is a calculator that they would use throughout high school and would also be used at the college level. Other than that, we really suggest that students wait until they come into the building to see what the requirements are that a teacher would be asking for them to have. So a pen and a couple of pens and a notebook on that first day, and their device, if they have one, would certainly be the best things for them to have, and a backpack and a water bottle.
And at the middle school, I believe those lists did go home with the homeroom placement letters, but we will post them on the website as well. We did work with the teachers in 5th and 6th grades. Because the students aren't changing classes, this is a little bit easier to do, but any of the more individualized supplies like markers, glue sticks, we are going to provide those to the students in a small bag so that they will have those supplies, and then they will be asked to provide, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me to give you the specifics, but things like notebooks, but we did try to limit that as much as possible, knowing that devices are coming. We do encourage all of the students to bring headphones or earbuds if they have them, especially given the technological nature of what we're doing here at this point. And then for our 7th and 8th grade teachers, or the 7th and 8th grade students, excuse me, we've worked with the teams of teachers again to limit those lists as much as possible, keeping in mind that they will be carrying everything around with them during the day.
Great. There are a lot of questions in here about band and instruments, so I'm just going to try to wade through them a little bit. So can students bring their instruments in with them during the day? Do they carry them with them since there's no lockers? Will they be able to use the same spaces where they put them before?
So I can speak to that at the middle school. Our amazing custodial staff and our music staff worked together today with Dr. Frazier on a plan for that specifically, and designated some spaces for each grade level to be able to store their instruments in a place that's safe for them, so they won't have to carry those around with them all day long as they go from class to class, but they will have them available to them when they're going to music.
And that same idea, that same plan has also happened here at the high school, where the music staff does have space in the music wing to be able to leave instruments there and appropriately spaced out, etc.
Lots of people are asking when, if this presentation will be available for other parents to view. Yes, it will be posted on Foxboro Cable Access. Students, music is planned to be outdoors into the foreseeable future. People are wondering about, when it gets cold out, if that will change, if music will be offered.
Yes, for now it's outside, at least for band and for chorus. The orchestra again can take place indoors. And again, we do have those coverings for inclement weather for outside for music. And again, it's fluid, so we'll keep reevaluating as circumstances change.
Same for the high school.
And there's quite a few questions, and we're not going to be able to answer every question. So if we, because we're over our time a little bit, and we want to be respectful of that, but we can download this chat and we can add some of these questions to our FAQ, which will be updated and put on our website. But Mr. Heyer, I don't know if you want to talk just a little bit about the ETA for the devices, and some people are asking, could students use an iPad for now? What if people don't have the devices at home? They have multiple children, kind of like Ms. Frazier mentioned before. I know Ms. Frazier mentioned that there is a plan, but I don't know if you just want to share a little bit about that.
Sure, absolutely. So as we previously shared, we originally anticipated the order of our new teacher and student devices between August 24th and September 1st. So since then, we did learn that the manufacturing of our machines was delayed due to a trade action that was taken against one of Lenovo Computers' component suppliers. So we are actually anticipating to hear from Lenovo this week with an update and a new scheduled ship date for our order. But in light of this, we're temporarily pivoting from preparing the deployment of our new devices to identifying ways to support the school community. We've begun to refurbish desktop computers that we have here in the district that will be temporarily loaned to families while we wait for our laptops to be delivered. Because of the complexities of supporting both in-person learning and remote learning and the demand for technology, until we get our computer order, the availability of loaner equipment will be limited. So we have created some priorities in terms of deploying the available equipment we have. So reaching out to families that are with special education students, ELL students, RTI, Title I students, as well as benefit eligible students at both the high school and the middle school, and then high school and middle school students, and then benefit eligible elementary students, and then general elementary students. So our staff will be reaching out to families this week. We did send out a survey where many families did indicate that they do need support with technology equipment at home. So we'll be reaching out starting tomorrow to those families to confirm individual needs and the availability of technology that we have to loan out. For the time being, we do ask that if you have laptops or computers or iPads or Android tablets, that you do use those devices for your remote learning plans. I'd say 98% of the resources will be compatible with just about any device web browser. Some of the functionality may be slightly different. For instance, in Teams, you may not be able to see the same number of concurrent video streams, but you will be able to access meetings and participate. So again, because the amount of equipment will be limited until we receive our shipment of devices, we do ask that you use and leverage whatever equipment that you have, and allow us to make sure that there are equipment for the most in need.
Thank you, Mr. Heyer. I think one last question just before we go, because I think the others we can add to our FAQ. Grade 5 band, Ms. Frazier, if people haven't heard about that, will they be hearing about how to get involved, or should they have already heard about Grade 5 band?
I can check with Ms. Tidoldi, our music director, on what communications will be coming out for Grade 5 band. We definitely want to encourage our Grade 5 students to join music. They have our Grade 5 students did select either band, chorus, or orchestra back in the spring. And they did let us know which instruments they'd like to play if they were playing in either the band or the orchestra, and they have been assigned to lessons as appropriate based on their choices. So our music staff is working on that, but I will check with Ms. Tidoldi on what's been communicated and what the plans are for communicating more.
Great. Thank you. I don't know, Dr. Berdos, did you want to add anything?
One of the things that I'd like to add, I did see a question in there, and I know it's a question that's on everyone's mind. When do we pivot and change our model if we're in a hybrid model right now? And then if we were to go back full in person, or if we were to swing the other direction and have to go fully remote, what is the factor that would make that change? And I would say it's based on multiple factors. We know that from the DPH, Department of Public Health, there's a metric that is at the state level, and that's based on the average daily cases of 100,000 over a 2-week period. And that metric determines the color coding for municipalities. And that is something that we look at. And again, the DPH is really our North Star when we look at that. But at the same time, we have to also monitor the cases that are taking place in Foxboro. It's very important within our own context to see whether in Foxboro, if cases are decreasing or if they're increasing, working with our local Board of Health. And at the same time, looking at multiple weeks. It can't be a 2-week period and flip-flopping, if you will, back and forth. It's monitoring those rates and looking at the DPH for sure, but looking at our cases and our context in Foxboro and looking at any of those trends in order to make any decisions and changing learning over a period of time. So although we see that metric for color coding that is coming out every couple of weeks, and those we need to look at more than just 2 weeks of time period, and know that what we see there is also closely aligned with our local Board of Health and with our own numbers. So it's multiple data points, and monitoring that and seeing what we're have in Foxboro, because sometimes even what you might see at the state level, those numbers could vary slightly. And so it's really important to look at Foxboro's numbers and trends over time. So I don't know, Ms. Rosenberg, if you have anything else to add to that.
No, that was very well said. But we have been, and I want to rest assured, we work with the local Board of Health closely, and we have all summer. They have been such a big help to this rolling out of our hybrid model, and we are actually, I think, erring on the side of caution and going to, being as cautious as we can. And for that, keeping the health and safety of all of our students and staff, the priority of this opening. So, kudos to our local Board of Health. We're really fortunate in Foxboro to have such a strong Board of Health, and they've been working with us. So it's been truly an amazing experience.
So with that, I would just like to thank all of you for joining us. As it was mentioned before, we have recorded this session, so we'll have that posted to our website at a later date. So those that want to go back and view it that didn't have the opportunity. And as Dr. Mello said, any of the questions that we weren't able to get to, we'll update our FAQ as well. And again, just always reach out to your child's school, the principal, teacher. As I said in the very beginning, we know that this school year is going to look very different. It's going to require flexibility, adaptability. It's going to require all of us to work very closely, support each other, and have patience, and know that what we are planning for is something that we've never experienced in education. I know that we continue to say it's unprecedented times, but it truly is. And to be able to run school in a time period like this, where we can have our students come back and our staff and feel confident and feel safe, that is our goal. And we are here to support our students. So please reach out to your students' teachers as the school year begins, or the administrators. We're here to support our families, and we will continue to communicate with you and do the best that we can to meet the needs of all of our students. So again, thank you very much for joining us this evening.